Hey babies, and welcome to the next part of the Let's Talk series. Today is a bit of a sensitive subject. We're talking about the aftermath of negative experiences and how it affects our mental health. This topic in particular has a lot of meaning to me because I myself have a personality disorder and suffer with anxiety on a day-to-day basis. I'm hoping to start a conversation about how these situations make us feel and what we do and say and how we deal with them. I've reached out to players in the community through multiple platforms and y'all have come through for me. You have had some fantastic responses. Some of the feedback I got just had me so sunshiny, and other stuff had me feeling really sad and really bad, and just generally reflecting on how the community has changed and how we interact with one another as humans. You've been raw, honest, and straight up, and I appreciate every single one of you who came out and trusted me and opened up to me. Thank you for this. So before we get into the questions and the feedback, let's just dig into my brain a little bit and get a little bit of an understanding about who I am and where I'm coming from in this situation. It's time for me to get real with y'all. So I'm 25 years old and I've been struggling with anxiety since my early teens. Pretty much even earlier as a child, I had a lot of issues with just communicating with strangers and people I didn't know, feeling comfortable in situations, and just a general unnecessary anxiety and fear about the world and the way I fit into it. I noticed I was different to the people around me, to my friends and my family. The things that would bother me wouldn't bother my mates at all. It would hardly touch the sides for them. I would find myself stressed out about them for days, not being able to switch off my thoughts or stop thinking about them, and really, in a sense, torturing myself over situations that were seemingly nothing. The older I got, and when I hit my teens in particular, during that rough time, all those fantastic hormonal changes and things like that, I noticed that I started to struggle with my mental health being positive, actually staying in a positive frame of mind. And I was becoming a really toxic person, and the negative things I was doing was really beginning to leach into my friends and my family's lives, and it was beginning to affect the people around me. I became really depressed and decided it was time to seek some sort of help for what I'd been going through. I began therapy around the same time I started studying and really decided that it was a good time for me to want to work on myself. I wanted to be the best version of myself. I didn't want to be bringing myself down or holding myself back anymore. And I didn't want to be affecting the people around me and the people I loved the most, because when they suffer, I suffer. And knowing that I was the cause of that was really burdensome and really difficult to deal with. The first load of therapy I went through wasn't too successful. I needed a very specific type of therapy, really. I needed DBT rather than CBT, which is a common form of therapy that basic psychologists and therapists use to deal with clients. Because of my diagnosis being specifically anxiety and depression, I definitely wasn't seeing the right type of psychologist. I definitely needed another diagnosis. Relatively recently, I was diagnosed with the correct condition and have begun medications and DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, for my condition. I can't even begin to tell you how much it has improved my life. I didn't even realize how much I needed medication or I needed these interventions to actually feel good about who I was, what I was doing, and just being able to function as a regular human in my day-to-day life. I have more drive, more happiness, more focus than I have in a long time. It's incredible. I still suffer with quite extreme anxiety. Some days I struggle to have a conversation with a stranger. I don't want to leave the house. I shut down and I don't communicate with the people I care about, being my friends and my family. Those relationships tend to be put on hold so I can put myself forward and try to cope in my little bubble at that time. Last month, I was additionally diagnosed with a condition that restricts the blood vessels when your heart rate increases. So when I have an anxiety attack or I'm feeling a great deal of stress, my hands and my feet go numb now. I lose all feeling in them. I end up with like a pins and needles sensation, and it's not pleasant. So for me, a lot of my major triggers are around socializing, being in demanding social situations, or around negativity. Basically, just it immediately triggers my anxiety. I shake, I sweat, I trip over my words, I basically lose. I become confused and I lose coherency and I get really nauseous and panicky. And now, on top of all of that, my hands and my feet go numb. So that's a fun thing. Now, with Avakin Life being predominantly a social app, you can imagine this might pose a few problems for me in particular, being that social is usually my trigger. Well, it certainly does for me, and I know I have a great deal of trouble with it, especially when some people just come out of the blue with negativity and it just trips me up and I end up just in a panic and have to switch off and disconnect for a while. Well, it all got me thinking, what kind of experiences are other people having in Avakin Life? I've been bullied, harassed, begged, I've been targeted, and felt a lot of super unnecessary stress in a lot of situations. And apparently, so have many others. I asked 5 pretty basic questions to the Avakin community just to get an idea of how widespread this sort of thing is. So I'm just going to be reading the questions from my laptop and all the feedback I've got because I've got it all written down, and I'll pop it up on the video so you can see it as it goes. But I'm not going to be reading everybody's feedback because there was a lot. I got a lot of feedback, but I have selected quite a few that I think were really just detailed or gave really good points that I thought were relevant. Let's kick things off with the positive first. The first question I asked was, what is the best social experience you've had on Avakin Life? This one I thought was sweet, so I've just included this one just for me. Isn't that cute? me. Okay, let's get past that. Enough of the up myselfness. Isn't this an amazing story, right? I met a friend who turned out to be my friend at school. It was so funny, but amazing, and we are best friends. We started talking because our names were the same band. Isn't that fascinating? So they came across each other in a social scene and went, hey, we've got a mutual interest here. It turns out they actually went to the same school. Isn't that cool? What a really positive experience. Thanks for that one. Getting to know people for who they are, that's an amazing thing. And keeping it positive, being able to take that connection outside of Avakin and bonding with the people was the best feeling out there. That's really amazing feedback, isn't it? Yeah, unfortunately people do change, but that's incredible. The best social experience would be when I was in a scene and someone came to me and told me they loved my outfit and style and to keep being myself. It was so random and out of the blue, but it was darling. You can just make someone's day by giving them a random compliment. That is lovely. That's a great example of a positive experience. Thank you for sharing these. You guys are amazing. For this player, meeting several new friends in the game with whom they share a lot of interests. And also playing the Egypt game and helping new players while dressed as Dumbledore. I'd love to meet an Egypt maze searching, scarab hunting, key, chest opening Dumbledore. Yes. Now, it's important to recognize that this is where the good vibes start to drop off a little. So bear that in mind. The second question I asked the community was, what is the worst social experience you've had on Avakin Live? First one up here, some random guy trying to date me. Now, I just took this one out because I've got a few of these messages, and yeah, a lot of people said that one of the worst experiences they had was being harassed by someone sexually. That is a shame. Why does that have to happen on a game? It's a game. Come on. This one's pretty sad. It says, I guess when a mutual friend spoke badly about my previous relationship publicly, getting told by someone repeatedly that you wouldn't be good enough for the person your heart loves. Then there's losing a friend due to miscommunication. Friend ache hurts like hell. Sucks when you go to a social spot on there and immediately think about all the past memories that used to be shared. Yeah, I can totally understand that. That's hard. The worst social experience would be I got stalked by a friend. They kept joining me and the people I knew I was hanging out with just to harass me. I blocked them, but they harassed my friends, so we all blocked them in the end. It went on for about 2 weeks. That's really unfortunate, and I hope you reported them. This is exactly why I think it's important not to friend strangers, but I see it's a good thing that you blocked them, so you did the right thing. But avoid being friends with strangers. If people are being nasty to you, just block them immediately and report them. And if they're doing the same to your friends, just let your friends know and get them to do the same thing. Here's another one. Accepting friend requests only to discover my new friend is a modder who gets his jollies from cyber stalking and unacceptable behavior. Been there, reported that twice now. I am so sorry you've had to go through that more than once, even if at all. That's an awful thing to have to go through. This is exactly why we need to be really careful about the people we add and we talk to on here. Now, this question worried me a bit because I got a lot of positive responses and an overwhelming amount of yeses. The third question is, have you ever been bullied on Avakin Life? Some of these got quite lengthy. This one is nice and basic. Yes, I have been bullied by strangers, by friends, by people I trusted, and it hurts me. They're being completely real. It hurts. It's a painful thing to go through. Just consider that, guys. These people are giving you real responses because they want you to know it's painful when you do this sort of thing. It doesn't make you look cool. It doesn't make you look clever. It doesn't put you in a position of power. It doesn't make you strong. You're not someone we idolize because of it. Quite the opposite, in fact. It makes you really trashy. Look, yes, when I had short hair because people would say I was a noob. Man, I wear short hair all the time. Screw those people. What does short hair have to do with being a noob? Like, I know that you get some basic hairstyles when you join, but come on, and everybody was a noob at one point. Y'all gotta be an L player before you get your P's, know what I'm saying? So let's just say drama would start continuously. Not that I ever cared about what was directed at me, but towards someone I love, definitely. Mutual friends weren't necessarily supportive the way you'd think they'd be. Isn't that a shame? That tells me that you were leaning in and reaching out for help, leaning on people, and they weren't giving you the support that they should have been. When someone tells you that they're being bullied or they're having trouble, please listen to them and please do everything in your power to help them. They're reaching out and they're telling you what's going on because they have a need to communicate and they need you to understand. They need help, and that's what it boils down to. Have I ever been bullied on Avakin? Oh yes, a lot. I used to get messaged from someone, not on my list, just to call me awful names and say I was a loser. I'm glad Avakin changed the rules because non-friends can't message me anymore. That's a great example of why I love that Avakin changed the rules and people that aren't your friends can't message you anymore. That is an awful situation, and I hope you blocked them. This one's interesting because they said not personally, or if they have, they've just shrugged it off and already forgotten about it. Although I pop into social scenes where I witness that sort of behavior quite frequently and it annoys and saddens me. It seems to go beyond the middle school teen bickering to something really abusive. I report it, but so much general incivility happens in public scenes that I don't report every single incident, or that's all I'd ever do in the game when out in public. That's awful. That means that so many people are out there just trolling and harassing and bothering people. What? So overall, it looks like everyone has experienced. I did not receive one person's response that said no. There were so many responses to this question in particular, and so many stories. I'm not sure if maybe, these people are just slipping through the cracks and their Lockwood aren't actually banning or blocking, or maybe they're only getting temporary suspensions, but it seems like this is a major issue in Avakin Life. And if you do see it, please, 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 I encourage you to report. It is so important. Lockwood don't know unless someone does report it or notifies them. So please do your best to let the tech team know and just block people. Don't be afraid to use that block button. It's not going to hurt you or them, and it's going to get them out of your life for good. There are so many people in Avakin Life, you cannot block them all, I assure you. So the fourth question I asked the community was, how do you feel after a bad experience and what makes you feel better? Like, what do you do to feel better? And we got quite a few interesting responses here. This person believing in themselves. Good on you. I'd say that's not nothing. I'd say that's a good thing. That's pretty powerful, being able to say, you know what, I'm bigger and better than them. So good on you. I think we could all take a page out of that book. So I really liked this one. This one's really clever. They said, if it's a really bad experience, I go offline for a while and then I set all my homes to private for a while once I return. Isn't that a clever idea? They also said, I always keep at least one favorite home set to private as a bolt hole anyway. So basically, they've always got a sanctuary or a safe space to go without being bothered or targeted by people. I'll also block someone who acts threatening or is simply too annoying to deal with any further. If they've done something that is actually against the TOS, I will report that behavior. So that's really good to know, and I'm really glad that you will do that, because I think a lot of people are afraid to report, thinking that it may come back on them in some way. And if it's not a false report, then it is not going to come back on you. The actions that were made after the experience is what I tend to think about. Like, what did I do less of? What could I have done better, made work out? But when you ask yourself these questions, guilt appears. From this point forward, I just look at the experience as if it needs to finally be let go of. And what makes me feel better is being without their presence around, finding a part of me I thought I lost. That's beautiful. That's such a really good point, because people do get caught in that trap of guilting themselves and thinking, well, maybe it was me. What did I do? How could have I changed? Like earlier when there was that comment about the short hair, maybe I have to put long hair on and that will change what they think of me. And that's not fair. If you want to rock short hair, you rock that short hair. Their opinion shouldn't matter. I feel crap after a negative experience on Avakin. Like, I just ignore all my friends and go offline. I feel bad, but at the same time, I feel bad from being on there. So I go offline and take time to myself. Usually calling my mum helps me. I just chat with her and tell her about it, and it helps to get it off my chest to someone I trust. I relate to that a lot. Because it's exactly like me. I feel crap after a negative experience, and I do have a way of blocking out my friends when I don't mean to be blocking out my friends. It's just that in that moment, social situations completely overwhelm me, and I feel like I need to switch it off. So that is very relatable to me, and I can understand, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. I feel really sad and have trouble trying to forget it. It stays in my mind and I feel sad. Sometimes I can't eat because I won't be hungry because I'm sad. Sometimes it makes me angry and I want to yell and tell them off. Sometimes it makes me cry because no one will listen when I say it really hurts my feelings. They say it's a game. When they say sorry, it makes me feel better. Or when I go offline and I stay offline for a few days. But then I miss my friends. I hate mean people. So that really does affect a lot of their day to day. That really does play into their everyday, unfortunately, because if it's affecting their appetite, it's affecting their function, it's making them upset, then and they feel isolated, then this is a really serious situation. You need to understand that not everybody has the ability to just brush things off. We have different levels of emotion and different levels of sensitivity, and some of us are much more sensitive to these sorts of comments, whereas other people are just reckless. Now, for me, I can go from laughing to crying in 0.6 of a second. Like, I am crazy. I can relate to going the roller coaster of emotion. For me, I switch off and I disconnect, and I like to maybe listen to music or talk to someone and get it off my chest, because it's really important to talk to someone that you can trust or that you feel safe with. For me, that's like my mom, my partner, my nan. They're always there to talk to no matter what it is and what it's about. So I know I can always talk to them. And the last question, of course, was, what does mental health mean to you? And I got a great range of responses from you guys. Some of them just made me giggle. Some of them were really just like, really in depth and over the top. I appreciate every single response. Some of these were just beautiful. So I've selected only a handful, but just so I can acknowledge these, because in particular, these were beautiful. This one made me laugh. But it's true, because that's exactly what it is. It's having a healthy brain, isn't it? Mental health means having good, healthy mind and being happy and positive instead of sad. If you're sad and can't be happy, then that can be bad mental health. And I think people should be nice, because I am nice and it hurts when they treat me bad. I think that's a pretty good summary, of what it is. This is lovely. It means my livelihood, lol. Seriously, while I am not a counselor myself, I have worked in the front desk, customer support / administrative team role in a counselling services environment for over 25 years. I also volunteer as a co-facilitator of a church-sponsored 12-step based weekly support group for women who are abuse survivors and have been a group leader there for over 15 years. That's phenomenal. You are an incredible person. Well done. It's super important that we take from our surroundings all the time. And the fact that you took something from being in that role, even though it was just an administrative role, it's still vital. Believe me, I appreciate the people that work at the front desk when I walk into the psychologist's office because they are not threatening and they make me feel comfortable. So bravo to you. You've done a fantastic thing. Keep up the amazing work. Now, this one is a bit of a sad one, but I think it's important. It says, it's so important to me because my mum has mental illness and my dad died young of suicide for being really depressed. I worry about people hurting and what they might do. People say it's just a game, but if you're trying to find a safe and happy place, then people make you feel afraid and attacked. You go back to being sad again. It's a vicious cycle, and I just wish that people could be nicer. I have days of bad mental health, and it's like getting the flu. You are sick and need to heal to get better. So make sure you always put your mind and heart first and look after it. It's so important. You are right and you are important. Thank you for sharing. This is a perfect example of why it's so important to be nice to people. You don't know what they're going through, what they've been through, or where they come from. And again, you don't know their level of sensitivity and where their emotions are. You don't know how they're feeling for the day, especially with games like Avakin. We have a virtual avatar. It doesn't necessarily express what we are actually feeling or experiencing in our lives at the time. For anybody who is experiencing negative thoughts or going through a negative experience, please don't be afraid to reach out and talk to someone you love and care about, someone that you trust. A doctor is the first step to getting referred into seeing a therapist or a psychologist. So if you do need help, please reach out. Always consider what other people are going through before you make quick snap judgments and just reacting. Always treat people the way that you want to be treated. It is so important. Please, guys, take these examples as something to consider, take with you and think about it. If you have any answers to these questions or want to share your experience, please go ahead and comment below. I would love to hear about them and I'd love to know what you did, what your solution to that problem is too. And if you have any tips for people, please put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And make sure you tune in to the next part of the series when I tackle another subject in amongst the community. If you want to get involved, just follow me on my Instagram or subscribe to my channel so you know when the next drop is coming. Thanks, lovelies. As always, it's Cannabex.